Am I audible? Am I audible? Wonderful. Right. So, welcome to the first class of PM revisions. Okay. I know the exams are coming up, and I know this kind of revisions will really, really help you to progress, understand where you stand, and also help you to pick up what things you need to do first and give you a step by step approach. So that's what I want to do with you. I want to help you. Obviously, there are just 2 weeks to the examination. I'm very sure that you have started your preparation long time back, and you must be going forward to pass your papers, right? So let's start our PM revisions. First, let's know me. My name is Janki Panchal. I am a fellow member with ACCA and an MBA graduate both from UK. I've been teaching all subjects of ACCA since past 10 years, and I'm also head of education for ICPA. Well, this is my educational background and my professional teaching background. Apart from this, I have worked in many corporate firms while I was in London, and currently I'm a partner with Diligent Accounting, which is into accounting and auditing for Indian as well as international clients, right? So whatever exposure I can bring to you would be from the corporate world also, and obviously from the technical side also. Right. Let's know Indian Institute of Commerce Lakshya also. I'm sure Lakshya, since you have subscribed for it, you must be knowing that it is one of India's best company that provides commerce, educational, professional courses, be it ACCA, be it CMA US, CMA India, CS, Indian CA, CMA, BVOC, etc. Right? So Lakshya has been there in the industry bringing successful stories for too many students around India as well as abroad. Recently, we have also started our classes for ACCA in English and Hindi, right? Lakshya has been very good in their Malayalam sector and English sector, but now we will be starting our classes in Hindi also from the upcoming quarter. What is the revision plan? How are we going to go ahead with the revisions? So we will be studying variance. What I have done is I have structured my revision in such a manner that I'm going to pick up one of the most important topics that comes in every performance management examination, and that is variances, right? So once I finish talking to you and explaining you what my program is to do with you, I want to start with variances has been an integral part of performance management for a very very long time, and learning them or improvising on them would surely help to score that marks. We would be doing four section C questions. Section C questions in our performance management paper are going to be a mix of various other topics than variances also. So there we will get an edge to seeing all the questions that are related to your section C. There's going to be two sample papers that I'm going to solve live in the class, and I would be using the CBE platform to solve one of the sample papers, and the other one I will be doing it on the Excel sheet, right? Obviously, if you want to drop me a message to do both of the questions on the CBE platform, I would be more than happy to do that. Before I start the variances, I would also show you the ACCA Study Hub and how to access it and also the CBE platform, because performance management is, was used to know as F5 paper, from where we move from the knowledge level and MCQ papers, which were 2 hours papers, to a first 3 hour paper, right? So students who have not gone through the CBE platform, or students who have not gone through the ACCA study hub, I would be showing that before even I start the variances. Let me just open up the complete paper pattern. Right. So how does this 3 hours performance management paper looks? As I said, you might be a viewer who is attempting a first skill level paper. So it's very important to understand how these papers are different from your knowledge level. Here, your 3 hours paper is going to be divided into three sections: Section A, Section B, and Section C. Section A is for 30 marks, where you have where you have 15 objective type questions or multi-choice questions, whatever you call it, and they are worth 2 marks each, right? When I am going to do the sample paper, you're going to see what different kinds of variety of a 2 mark question looks like, right? The next one is section B, which is also of 30 marks, but here you have got a case study on which you will be answering 5 questions of 2 marks each. So typically you will be having 3 case studies, obviously not a very elaborative one, but a pretty decent case study or scenario, whatever you call it. And on one case study, you will be having 5 questions. Those 5 questions would be for 10 marks each. And the same pattern is repeated for 3 times. So that makes it a 30 marker section B. Your section C, I'm so sorry, this is a typo error, but a section C is for 40 marks. Let me just quickly make changes here before it gets a little confusing. Right, so your section C is for 40 marks, where you're going to get two constructed questions, and two of these questions are going to be 20 marker each. So my idea is to do one, two, three, and four of these kind of questions with you, and obviously do 100 marker question, 200 marker questions with you, right? So this is what I want to do with you. Obviously, see, when we talk about performance management, you must be hearing a lot of stories about performance management, and I'm sure the viewers that are watching this video would be a mix of students who must have given this paper before but unfortunately have not passed it, and obviously the ones who are giving it for the first time, right? So I get a lot of understanding from the students for this paper that they're pretty scared of this paper, and they don't know how to approach the paper, right? So I'm going to talk about it while I'm going to, go further in my slides. But, when we talk about performance management paper, the first key that you need to understand about this paper is you need to read the questions carefully. Okay, the language that is used for a performance management paper is sometimes, a point of nudging for any student. As much as you practice from various publication books that we have, as much as you practice from the ACCA study hub, there is always a variety of language that is used in your examination. Obviously, I am going to go to that part and give you some keywords that will help you understand a question better. But the thing with performance management is, you need to practice as many questions as possible. Okay, you need to understand the technical skills of different types of features. that the performance management brings to you, right? It can be your costing, it can be the various types of costing, it can be budget, it can be variances, performance measurement, everything. You need to know the technical knowledge for it first, and then solve or at least go through as many questions as possible. Performance management also has got a bit of logical reasoning that is put into it, right? So if you expect a performance management question to be a pretty straightforward question or a simple question, like if you compare it with financial reporting, that would not be the case, right? If you focus on how much marks are being given to this, 60 marks are given to your two marker questions. But if you don't practice your two marker questions, if you don't see a lot of questions before you actually go and give your examination, the problem is these 60 marks, which are so important, so integral for you to pass a paper, would be missed out on, right? In fact, in this paper, your 40 marker, your section C, becomes a more comfortable zone to work around, because it majorly has very important features like costing or performance management or variances, which people are mostly comfortable with. But when it comes to the MCQs, or when it comes to the objective type questions, that is where I feel students are struggling, right? So here the focus has to be on both the the multiple choice questions or objective questions and on section C equally, right? You cannot just go on one and forget about the other one. That would just not work in performance management, and that is something which students go in the examination hall with an ideology that we would just focus on section C, and then we can just randomly tick on some section A's and B's and get your 50 marks and pass the paper. But that does not help. Honestly, that does not help. While we are going through, obviously, as many questions as I do with you, it would not be all the questions that are available. So once I show you the ACCA Study Hub, I honestly want you to try each and every question. If you don't have the time to try them, at least see what the answer is showing you, so you get more knowledge, you gain more knowledge. For any other subject, that I teach, obviously, because I teach all 15 of them, I realize that I give unique strategies for each of the subject. So once we finish the revision plan that I have, on the last day of the revision, I want to give you the strategies that you need to pass your PM paper, right? So I would strongly recommend that you be in sync with me with all the subjects, all the portions and topics that I'm covering in my revision session, and assure that you follow it. And that would definitely be a very good leap on you to pass your PM paper, right? Let's go further. What are the main things that come in all your sections, section A, section B, and section C, right? Something which comes by default in all of them, or can come by default in all of them. You cannot miss any of these topics that I've mentioned here, be it information technology or system, advanced costing techniques, decision making, budgets and controls, and performance measurements. Any of these things I would not recommend you to miss on, right? You should have a sound knowledge of how to deal with these topics. There are various sums given, there are various sums and theory knowledge that is given in your in your ACCA study hub or any publication that you are using. Be very sound with them before even attempting the questions. Some students end up doing just the questions and forget doing the theory part. Well, this might be a fluke that you must have passed through, or you would have passed any other paper for. But if you have a time, say 100% is the time that you have to give any paper, your 35 to 40% should be on improvising your knowledge, your background, and your information on any technical skills, okay, pertaining to, if we talk about performance management, then pertaining to these five sections, correct? And the rest of the 65 to 70% should be further divided into 50% to look into your past papers, look into your ACCA study hub questions and quizzes, etc., which I'm going to show you in a minute, and the rest of the 50% in giving religiously 400 marker mocks. It's so important to assure that you're managing your time correctly, even though students do feel sometimes that it is 60% MCQ paper, you might be ending up, getting lucky with it, and you won't require enough time to, do those 60 markers. But believe me, if you have not timed yourself in an examination, you will find yourself in trouble. Okay, so 400 marker mocks, just use them and do them. Okay. It will surely, surely, surely help you to understand how to manage your time. It will also help you to understand which section is your strong core. And you can start with that or use that as your own strategy when you're giving the paper. Okay, so this certain things are so important for you for performance management. Let's see what we have next. Right. I wanted to give you basically, idea of your section C questions. So let me just go through it and give you some keywords for your section C questions, because as I said, the paper is going to have a mix of numericals and theory, right? So, when we talk about numericals and theory paper, I hope my handwriting does not bother you much. Right. So when we talk about the numerical part, numericals normally have got terms like calculate or terms like derive or terms like estimate, right? See, mostly numericals are very easy to identify in your exam. And this is mostly something that you will find in your section B and your section C. Okay, because section B and C might have, section C obviously has got a lot of numericals, right? But section B also has something that you need to calculate. Section A has got a little bit less compared to B and C, right? So when we talk about numericals, your numericals would be identified with certain terms, like you need to calculate something, you need to derive a value, or you need to estimate, for example, what is the variance or what is the performance measurement, etc., right? But your section C questions would be something which is completely going to be narrative questions, right? Your narrative questions are something where your theoretical knowledge is very important. When I say that your time has to be divided as 30% on clarifying your technical skills, predominantly it means that you need to understand what the theory is talking about. Okay, you cannot just miss on the theory. Some students come to me with a misconception that performance management is something which is more inclined towards numericals. Well, that is not the fact. If you pick up any of the past papers, you would realize that there is an equal balance between your theory part and your numerical. So there is no way that you can miss out on any of these integral numerical or narrative questions, right? When we talk about narrative questions, which is something which definitely comes in your section C, because that is where you have a edge to write your theory, right? So when you have to do that, obviously there are certain terms that will be used, which you must have found in other papers also, like describe, or we talk about interpretation. When we talk about interpretation, definitely that is something which relates to analyzing a data, or simple terms like discuss or explain or identify, etc. Right? Let me just make this a little better. right? So these are certain terms which will show you that you are doing a theory question. Sometimes an individual question would be a mix of theory as well as a mix of your numericals, right? So, for example, if you are getting a ratio question, which I believe everybody is pretty comfortable with because you have studied that in skills level, knowledge level. If you have not studied in knowledge level and if you have come to your skill level with some exemptions, then ratios is something that you must have studied earlier. So, despite of the fact that ratios are, they are simple to calculate, there are certain ratios or formulas that you need to know. Their analyzation is always tricky, right? And if you notice, ratios is something that comes into almost 60% of the subjects of ACCA, right? So all these things, for example, if you take ratio or if you are taking performance measurement, you will notice that you are calculating things as well as you are talking about them, right? And if you have a question like that, how to deal with them would be something that I'll be showing to you in my section C questions, right? What kind of ACCA exam support is received, right? So you would get many exam support articles which are available on the ACCA Global website. I'm going to show them to you in a minute. I'm also going to show you the CBE platform, which I'll be showing you live in the class today, and I'm going to show you the ACCA Study Hub. Okay, because even before I start teaching you variances and going forward with the format that I want to show you in my revision classes, I want you to understand what would be your guideline to start practicing your questions. It's so important that from day one, if you have started your revision from today with me, you need to go in a certain manner, right? So by the time we are at the end of the revision class, which is, by this Friday, we would be able to handle questions. We would be seeing a lot of questions that are available on the platforms that ACCA is providing, right? I don't deny the fact that you must have already gone through or you have already, gone through some publication house and used some publication books, which is wonderful. Obviously, those books have got a lot of knowledge, but ACCA itself also provides you a lot of resources, and I strongly believe that whatever you have studied from the publication is a base that you've created for yourself. If you want to test yourself further, if you want to practice further, you can go through these platforms, and I'm sure there are going to be a edge to what you have studied so far and revised so far, right? So I'm strongly recommending students, whoever are watching this video for the September 2023, and obviously the following ones, if you are watching it for the later, you should go through and practice your mocks on the CBE practice platform, and you should go through the complete ACCA study hub to revise yourself. There are wonderful quizzes and a lot of information that you can find from there, right? So I'm going to start with them shortly, and super excited again to get you all on board. I'm it brings me immense pleasure that I'm going to add value to your journey of ACCA and definitely to your journey of passing your PM paper. So let's begin. Okay. Let me just quickly open the CBE platform and the ACCA Global website. I'm just going to put it on the break screen for a minute. So here it is. First, I want to show you, just a second, just take a clear view. Perfect. Right. I want to show you, if you have not accessed the study resources, if you have not accessed the support that ACCA is giving you, which is something which is obvious at a skill level for a skill level viewer or a student, because they might have not known about it, right? So my first idea is to show you what all support you receive from ACCA for the subject, and that is where you normally just need to type ACCA Global, and you need to click on the main page, right? Here, if you write performance management, just press enter. You'll get a lot of information that is particularly available, and the articles that are available for performance management topics. If you look through it, see there is divisional performance management, big data and performance management, tips for the performance management exam. This is very important before you go to the exam. I think this is the ideal time actually to go through these tips of performance management exams. Obviously, these tips you can go through from here, but I have tried to inculcate them into my last segment of the revision, which comes on the fifth day of our revision classes. Uh, I have inculcated all of them, but still, if you want to go through them by yourself, this is where you can find the important informations. Apart from this, I'm going to give you obviously more tips for your paper, something that I have, inculcated, something that I have, developed through the journey of this 10 plus years of teaching ACCA, from sometimes helping students, to improve their marks, etc. So those tips I'm going to give. But yeah, if you are going to go through the tips for yourself, you should click on the performance management on your ACCA Global website, and you will get the tips that are given by the examiners, right? Just going to go a page back. There are, more information on the syllabus and etc. I'm sure since we have got only 2 weeks for the examination, I'm pretty sure that you are stable with all this basic knowledges. But, you know, if you have not gone through this and if you wish to go through them before the examination, it would take you like half an hour or 45 minutes to go through or read through some important articles here. And, if I was at your place, I would have definitely done it by now, right? Let's move to the technical articles, which is, if you write performance management technical articles, here it is, right? If you click on the PM's technical articles and tricky topics, it will give you an overview what or which segments. See, these are the ones that I've already mentioned to you: information technology, advanced costing, decision making, budgeting, performance measurement, etc. This is something which I already discussed and told you that it will be a part of all your sections. So there is no way that you can miss on any of these topics, right? So this is something, if you want to go further and if you want to get more info, this is your place to do that. Okay. Now coming to your CBE platform. If you want to access your CBE platform, you need to log into your My ACCA portal. Okay. Once you log into your My ACCA portal, you would be seeing something like this. Yeah, you can see it. Let me just make this little, yeah, right. You can see something like this. If from the dashboard, if you move to my qualification, you will see something like this, which you are very aware of, right? Obviously, you booked your exams from here also. So I'm just using one of my students' information. So, Arav, if you're watching this, big thanks to you for sharing your ACC ID and password with me. Um, since I am a fellow member, it is very difficult for me. In fact, it's impossible for me to access these details. But, since I am into teaching students, uh, this kind of, gestures are really helpful for the student to, disclose their information with me so I can help all the viewers by getting into the students' portal, right? So, you can click on the CBE platform. But before going to the CBE platform, I want to show you something which is very important, which is your ACCA Study Hub. Okay, so where you used to book your exams, just there below there, you will see if I don't know if it's visible or it's gone behind my head. No, yeah, it is. Right, so you need to click on ACCA Study Hub and you'll be channelized to another page. It takes little longer. Right. So if you have first time access the ACCA Study Hub, you will see that all of those, zones look red like this. And what you need to do is you need to click on the subject that you're going to talk about or that you want to get more information about. Today, since we are doing performance management, I'm going to click on performance management and I'm clicking on go to exams. Right? So when you click on go to exams and the subject that you want to talk about, like performance management for today, you would see a screen like this that comes on your page, right? And that is where all the chapters are being given to you, right? So there are chapters. Let me just check quickly how many chapters it has. Performance management has got 18 chapters, right? So all the chapters are mentioned here. Let me just go to the first one and whatever information you want to pick up. See, sometimes what happens, as I said, by this time, while I'm showing you the ACCA Study Hub, there are chances that you might have already accessed it and used it. But for students who have not accessed it or not used it and use some other publication house, it is not that you need to be scared of, right? It's beautiful that you use the publication house. I'm sure whatever books you have used that are available for ACCA, be it BPP or be it Kaplan, they have got most of the details that are required for you to pass your performance management paper, right? Still, if you have missed on any topic, you need to just overlook the chapters that are given here and figure out if there is anything that you need more clarity on, if there is anything that you probably, yeah, like need more information on, and you click on those particular topics and go through it. Something that I normally get students struggling with is the transfer pricing. So I'm just going to go to that chapter, transfer pricing. And for example, I am just picking up, say, market price method. Okay. For example, I have not seen it. I'm just saying I have not seen it. It's just an example, an assumption that, for example, I've not seen it in any of the publication house books. Okay. So if that happens, and if I see, oh, maybe market price method is something which I am not clear about, right, with whatever information I have received so far, I would just click on those topics, maybe just click on this topic, and I would see an information that is given that will increase my understanding of that particular topic. So if I don't understand transfer pricing and in transfer pricing I don't specifically understand market price method, I would just go through the ACCA Study Hub, select the topics that I think I need more clarity on and go through it. Now, I don't want to read it on right now, but if I go through it and I, for example, I feel very confident about the information that is given here, I would rate my confidence, okay, as high. Similarly, if I'm not very sure and I want to, I want to research more about it, I might say medium. And if I am, my confidence level is too low on the information that is given here, I might just select on any one of the low options, right? So, for example, if my confidence is low on this, I'll just click on low and then I will press on continue. Apart from this, the particular topic also gives you a lot more things that you can do here. So there is a highlight section option where you can highlight details. I'm just going to quickly do that for you. So if you are clicking on the highlight information, you can highlight those things, right? For example, normally when you have your hard copy or physical copy of the books, what do? You use a marker or you use a highlighter and highlight those things. So the same features are available here, so you feel as real even from the virtual platform, right? So you can highlight your things. If you want to remove the highlight, there is an option just next to them which you can click on and remove the highlight. If you want to bookmark something, you can do it. So I'm probably just bookmarking the thing. Okay. And then you can always record information. So, for example, from whatever I have understood here, if I want to write my own notes, okay, so maybe just I'm writing market price method. Okay, so this is my little bit of notes that I've written from the data that I'm getting on this topic. I will just write a note on it and I will press on continue, right? And so on and so forth. I will be going on with all the topics that I want to, go about, right? I can also look at what is having what confidence level. Some topics, as I said, would need more clarity. Even if you have gone through them, you might want to read up some more things. All those things with the confidence level can be seen in this segment, which is confidence level segment. If you have written any notes, you can see your notes. If you want to see any bookmarks, you'll see your bookmarks. If you want to view that section again, you can always click on the little I button that you are seeing here. And if you don't want to bookmark it anymore, see if I'm clicking on the I button, this is what I'm getting. If I don't want to bookmark it anymore, I can always delete the bookmark, okay, which is like a little button next to the I button. So here it goes, gone. If I have highlighted something, I can see the highlights here also. So all in all, it's having beautiful features that can help you understand or increase your knowledge on the study hub, right? The next thing that the study hub provides is a flashcard option, right? So if you notice, there are 59 flashcards here. Now, where would flashcards help you in your performance management paper? So basically, flashcards are the ones that help students to understand what kind of words can be used for an elaborative word. So if, for example, here the term is information system. If I want to know what information system is, I would just click on it once and you will get the information, you get a definition or, a better description of that. So, consist of people, procedures, and possibly computer hardware and software working together to collect, store, process, and communicate information. Right? So, what is this doing? Sometimes, when you're writing your theory papers or your theory side of your question, which is, maybe something that comes in your section C, you want to beautify your answers, right? You want to use terms which looks nice and professional. So that is where flashcards help you a lot to understand certain things. Apart from that, flashcards also helps you to understand a question, right? If you remember, while I started performance management, few minutes ago, I did mention that language that is used to ask a question in the performance management paper is sometimes tricky, right? So that tricky language needs to be overcoming from somewhere. And how does that happen? It will happen if you know the terms that are given. With this, they also have one more option, which is, did you understand it? You can say yes, no, or partly, right? You can always flip it back. You can go to the next one, information security, security, privacy, password, etc. Right? So many words that will be going on. And if you notice, the words that are here would also go in the same order as the chapters go, right? So if you remember the first chapter that was on the chapters segment, was information technology, right? So these terms are something that would be related to that chapter. Flashcards do help students to improvise on their language skills, do help students to understand the questions, especially where the question seems to be a little tricky. Okay, and obviously, when they are writing a theory part of the answer, this helps them to improvise their answer, right? So this is how the flashcards should be utilized. There is a list also. If you don't want to see it in this format, you can always see it in the list format, right? And then you can go through the next and next and next, correct? So that's how you will be using your flashcards. You can always print it for yourself. You can always study it for yourself. The next segment that you have here is quizzes. Okay, so when we click on quizzes, chapter wise, 5 questions for each quiz, each chapter are being given to you. So, for example, let's take my same example of transfer pricing. Maybe I'm not very comfortable with transfer pricing. What I'll do is I will go through the transfer pricing chapter that is given in this ACCA Study Hub chapters platform, and I will, go through it. I understand it pretty well, and then I want to take the quiz. If I want to take up the quiz, I just click on the quiz button, and then I will start a quiz. Before starting, if you notice, all the informations are given so accurately here. You have the number of questions that can be taken, your average answer time, your average correct answer time, and your average incorrect answer time, which is such a beautiful platform to make you understand how much time you are spending, and is that time spent giving you a right answer or a wrong answer, right? Which is so nicely, so detailed done for you. It gives you such a beautiful idea of, whatever time you're spending, and for example the answer went wrong, you would realize yourself because it is there in front of you in numbers, right? Showing you, well, you spent like 5 minutes for a 2 marker question and it was not even worth it, right? As I said, your papers, apart from your knowledge, would require you to have a lot of time management. This is a very good platform for you to practice it. Okay, so because you're doing a revision right now, I do understand you would not have enough time to go through all the chapters here, but I'm sure there are certain topics which you don't feel comfortable with. If you can find them in the chapters, the chapters segment, you go through them here and you take those quizzes. If you have time, you can do other quizzes also, but this will give you a good edge of doing it, right? You can always start the quiz. So, for example, if I'm starting the quiz and I'm writing like a random answer and then, ending it, obviously you will take your own time to do it. So, what does it show? It shows that my 20%, I'm correct. So I score like 20% or 20 marks on 100. Average time that I took for one is zero point 0.1 second, because obviously I was just explaining you how to go through it and what comes after that. And then your correction of answer times and incorrect time, how much it takes, right? You also get a review of what are your wrong questions and what are your right questions, how much time you spent. If at all you want to study that chapter again and you want to retest yourself, you can always click on the retest button, like I have done, and you can test yourself again, right? So it comes back to your testing. So beautiful platform. For your exam, you will have 60 marks worth of objective type questions or multi-choice questions. So, going through the quizzes is something which I highly, highly recommend. The next segment is the practice segment. Now, when we talk about the practice segment, this also is a chapter wise segment. But if you see the questions of quiz, the quiz questions are there just to improvise your knowledge, right? If you see the OT questions, objective type questions of the practice segment that is here, it is mostly focusing on little more difficult questions, something that might be testing you for the exam style preparation. Okay, so this is also something which I strongly recommend. I will repeat it again. Don't get confused on what you need to do from now onwards. I'm sure you have gone through the study material that you have so far. So when you open the ACCA study hub, only go through the chapters which you feel you are less comfortable with. Okay, only with the ones which you feel you are less comfortable with. Then after you're going to go through the quizzes, obviously to understand those less comfortable chapters. After that, you're going to obviously go through the flashcards to understand your improvise your understanding and knowledge. The next one is practice. For practice, these questions that you see here, they are the ones which are near exam intensity questions, right? So them, I strongly recommend that you go and you do all the practice questions that you have here. Every chapter is having certain amount of practice questions. Obviously, it does not have to be same for each one of them. So if you notice, chapter 18 has got 13 questions, 17 has 14, and so on and so forth. Every chapter has got their own type of objective questions. Your exam is for 60 marks of objective questions only. So I strongly recommend, if you are following the revision that I'm giving you, you need to do these by default. Once you are done with them, then your revision case studies, which are little bigger ones. Let me just show you transfer pricing only of how these question format looks. Very similar to your quizzes, but you can expect little more intricate or intense questions in this platform right now, right? I'm just going to go back. Well, done practicing, and then go back to the session. Very similar. The format is very similar for the OT revision questions to that of the quizzes. But as I said, the questions here are going to be intense than the quiz that you do. The quiz is there just to make you understand that you are aware of the information that is being given in that particular chapter. But the practice questions will help you understand what kind of questions can come in the exam for those things. Okay, so use these. I strongly recommend to go through all the OT revision questions and do all of them. Okay, let's see what the next one is. The revision cases are the ones. I'll just show that to you. See, if you notice, they are a little big than what your OT questions are. Something that can help you do your section B questions. Right. So if you notice here, I'm just going to take you back to show you the same question. So see, there's just one question. Okay. And on this one question, you will have five options to be writing, five questions, like sub questions to be written on. Right. So if you notice, the XYZ store information is same. And this is your question one. Obviously, I'm going to skip it. Question two. This is your three, four, five, right? So your section B questions is also something that you can, practice from here. I'm just going to go back. Yep. And that you need to do for all the chapters. If you notice from the chapter 4 onwards, you have got constructed response questions. Now, what are constructed response questions? Constructed response questions are your section C questions, which are for 20 mark each, right? So you will find these questions to have a mix of theory and a mix of numericals. right? So this is something that you can find out from here. Few of the sums, four of the constructive response questions from all different type of topics that I've just mentioned in my presentation would be done in the class. But as I said, this is a performance management paper. The more you practice, the more different variety of sums that you see, the more knowledge you will gain. Okay. To pass this paper, the first thing that you need to do is stop being scared of the paper, right? It is the way that it goes is very similar to that of a logical reasoning paper, right? Where you have to use your brains, and it becomes a little stimulating for your brain to go through the questions and answers and etc. How do you improvise on those kind of papers? You can only improvise by assuring that the base technical knowledge is available with you and you are seeing as many questions as possible. Trust me, this is the only key. The more you see the questions, the more you see, okay, this is how you're supposed to answer this. This is how this is supposed to be calculated. You will get your marks. Okay, trust me, this is a very good technique that you need to use. You still have 2 weeks. It's not like the end of the world. You have time, right? So use it correctly and assure that you're using it to make sure that you're getting the right platform for you to access. So this is how you are going to go through all the constructive type questions and your section A, B, and C. If you notice, all three of them have been handled in the practice segment, but these are not full 100-mark questions, right? So if these are not 100-mark questions, we need to find 100-mark questions to see how our time management is, correct? And all these questions that you will be doing, as I said, I don't expect you to do all the questions, but at least I expect you to look through all questions, right? But from each chapter, there are 18 chapters, right? One question you should attempt and see how long does it take for you to finish it up. For example, if you see chapter 18, transfer pricing, there is this question called Abel and Baker, which is also a past paper question. If I click on this and click on start practice, and for example, I'm just planning the answer. Planning the answer means writing the answer. I'm planning the answer for this, and I'm just gonna plan my answer here. Uh, just say blah 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 and confirm it. Once you confirm the answer, that is where you would be able to see the complete answer. Okay, and obviously then you can figure out. See, when it is not a MCQ question, MCQ question, when there is a constructive response question, you would not be getting a right or wrong there. You need to figure it out yourself. And that is where your answers are in front of you. You can always find out what went wrong, where you could not give correct time or where you could not do the thing. And that is where you will identify your issues and you will work towards it. But surely go through one question. You do yourself, you practice yourself at least one question from the practice segment of the ACCA study hub for each of the chapters that they have given you. I'm sure that is going to help you understand where you stand, what are your strong points, because you need those strong points to keep you motivated throughout, and what are your weak points, and you can work on your weak points, right? Obviously, when you're going to start doing it, you will be struggling with your time management, but that is fine, right? We still have 2 weeks. If you start from today also, your revision part, stop those textbook informations that you have been doing, and you felt that that would be helping you out or something, and if you start testing yourself on this, you will be able to you know reach there where you are expected to pass PM paper with good marks, right? Let's go back, click on continue, and come back to my practice sessions, right? Again, repeating, there are 1, 2, 3, and 4 important segments of your ACCA study hub. You need to use the chapters to figure out which is your weak area and go through them there. You need to use your flashcards to understand that you need to improvise your language in your section C and to identify the questions also for your throughout the performance management paper. The quizzes is going to help you, but as I said, you don't need to do all the quizzes. They are just there to help you understand how good have you understood something. So for that, whatever chapter you are not comfortable with and whatever chapter you've gone through to just recollect your information, only those chapters I would strongly recommend that you do the quizzes for. Okay, but practice questions, the objective type questions, try at least one section of each, right? Figure out how much time you are taking to do them. When it comes to your constructive questions, the section C questions, which are for 20 marks, you need to assure that you are going to time the questions, obviously, which are already there. You will see how much time it takes, and you will yourself see the improvement once you see, okay, maybe for a question I took 40 minutes, so I was supposed to take only 30 minutes, right? So once you figure out what is your weak point, you will start working on it. So the Study Hub is a beautiful digital hub. I strongly recommend for your September 2023 and onwards papers. Use this platform, use the resources. They are going to give you a lot more variety of questions because you know what happens when you are using any publication, BPP or Kaplan. You're so used to the format of the question. You're so used to you have that comfort level with those books, so this will also stimulate you in terms of using a different platform to test yourself, right? So that is how you should use your ACCA study hub. I'm just going to close this one. And CBE practice platform, which is what I want to show you now. This is also somewhere where you book your exams. I'm sure if you have, or you must have by now at least gone through the CBE platform. So I'm going to do a quick go through of it. So when you click on the CBE platform, just a second. When you go on the CBE platform, you'll realize that all the subjects, apart from your first four papers, which is your business technology, management accounting, financial accounting, and law paper, which are completely MCQ papers, two marker papers, which are on demand papers also, are not available on the CBE platform. All those papers are available on the ACCA Study Hub, but they are not available on the CBE platform. Okay. So on the CBE platform, you will have all the skill and the knowledge level papers. I'm going to click on performance management because that is where I'm going to start with. So I'm going to click on performance management. If you have any paper that you're using from outside, okay, maybe some paper that you have, found out on the internet or something, a past paper, and you want to practice it, you need to use the blank workspace, okay? But if you want to use the papers, you want to solve the past papers, this is what you need to do. You need to go through these papers. Now, there is one specimen paper that you have for PM. I'm just going to go to that. It's already assigned. This is the specimen paper. When you click on a paper, this is the screen that you can see right now. Let me just confirm you can see it. Perfect. Yeah. So the screen that you can see right now, this screen is something that you will be having in your examination also. Okay. Now, as I said, you need to be comfortable. You need to go out of your comfort zone of hard copy books and be comfortable with the CBE platform. And you need to solve four mock papers on the CBE platform only to see how you can figure around with the screen that is available, the different kind of windows that you can open, and the time management also, right? So four mock papers is something which I strongly recommend to all of you to solve to see how much you understand, how much you can, go well with the space and with the format of the examination, and definitely your time management. None of the papers which are on the CBE platform are timed. Okay, like the practice ACCA Study Hub practice questions had time on it. This one does not have time on it. So you need to keep your own time for it. Okay. Normally, when I used to go to my examinations, I used to wear a watch with a beeper because you can't take your mobile phones. And at our times, it was a handwritten paper. So it's a very old story. But now also, you can go to a center and give a paper from your home, whatever. You need to manage your time, and that can only be done. Obviously, you are not allowed to keep your mobile phones with you, so that can only be done provided you are having your time managed. You can have a watch with a beeper. As I said, I used to use a watch with a beeper, and I recommended it to so many of my students, and so many of them are using it, and they really feel the difference in the time, right, that they are using. They just feel that there is someone there to tell them, shut off, go to the next one, shut off, go to the next one, right? So you can also use that if you want. You can use a watch which has got a beeper which gives you a time check on your different sections, section A, section B, and section C. Right, and this is how your question paper looks when you first get it. Just going to explain it. See, so basically this is how you will be getting your questions, and you can go to the next and obviously answer it. There is a little form. I think it's yeah, you cannot see it. Just give me 1 minute. Let me just make this little smaller. Um, right. I'm just trying to. No, I'm not able to do it. Anyways. So I just wanted to make it a little smaller, but I think I cannot do it right now. Anyways, so behind me on your screen, there are three options given, which is previous, navigator, and next. Okay. And that is where I clicked on next and went to the next question and the next question and the next question, right? There is also something called a navigator, which is just in between previous and next. You need to click on the navigator and you will see something like this, which I believe you can see on your screen now, is visible. Right now, this navigator gives you a very good, it's a very good tool because you can flag your questions. You can always, you can always see what you have flagged and you can come back to those questions later. Plus, if you are very comfortable with any particular section, so for example, I'm a student who's giving my September 2023 performance management paper, and I did realize that my section C is very strong and I can finish it, under the time that is expected. What will I do is I'm going to click on the navigator, which is obviously behind me in the screen and you cannot see it. And I'll go to my section C and click on the question. See? And the question is right in front of you, and you can start writing that, right? Once I'm okay with that, well, in your examination also, if you don't scroll through the complete question, it does not allow you to go to the next page. So, if you're clicking on next and there is some pop-up that comes in, don't panic, just read through it. Basically, it is only trying to tell you that you need to scroll through the question and then go to the next page. Okay. I've seen students getting panicked on it, and it is normal to happen because you have that exam pressure. So I totally get that, right? So here also I have to scroll through this. If you can see, I'm just moving my screen up and down, right, to figure out that I have completely seen it, and then I'm going to go to the next question. If I'm not seeing the whole question, I'll show you again what kind of dialog box comes. So this is something that comes which says you have not viewed the entire screen. Please use all scroll bars and or open any on-screen exhibit before trying again. right? So this is something that you'll get in your examinations also. I've seen students with a lot of pressure in their performance management paper because they get a lot of negative review from other students. But whoever come to me for learning performance management, I only tell them that whatever anybody has told you, just erase it from your mind first. It is their side of the story. It does not have to be your side of the story also, right? And not even performance management, any paper that you're doing for any subject or any course, don't take other people's story as your story also. Everybody must have studied at their own level, everybody must have prepared on their own level, their techniques must be different, their focus must be different, right? You can't imply other students or other people who have passed their paper on you. It's a very wrong thing to, it's very harsh on yourself, I feel, especially when you get negative thoughts, and the subject like this gets a lot of negative reviews, right? So as I said, you need to be, first you need to calm down, you need to understand what you have done, you need to understand where you want to reach, and obviously your goal and my goal for the performance management revision is only one, that you pass the paper, right? That is my first milestone. After that, scoring is my second milestone, but every time my first milestone should be to pass the paper. I know so many people say aim high, aim high. I am not saying that you should not aim high. You should aim 100 marks for yourself. But for that 100 marks, you need to pass your paper first. And my first strategy for any paper for ACCA is I would show you tricks, I would show you tips in my 100 marker papers of how to pass your paper first, and then go ahead with scoring high marks, because obviously we all need good marks, yeah, don't we? And we all have that number in our head that we want to achieve for any paper, be it for performance management, any subject, or ACC or any other course also, right? So that is how you are going to use this. Now, in your performance management paper, you would notice that there is some formulas that are already given to you, right? On this page, where to find them. You have to click on, I'm sure you can see this small button. Oh, well, you cannot see that too on your screen. Never mind. So, just on there is like a small toolbar. On the toolbar, there is a help slash formula sheet button, which if you just even, take your pointer to, it becomes red. So I'm going to click on that, and you will see the exam instructions. Next to it is your formula sheet, and next to it is your CR question help. I'm going to click on the formula sheet. These are all the formulas, which is obviously, not enough, but all the formulas that are given to you for your performance management paper, right? Apart from this, what if formulas, obviously, which are not given here, should be done by yourself, okay? And then there is CR questions, constructive response questions, and how to go through them. Instructions are given for them also. But as I said, you'll be pretty decent off with the information that I'm giving you here. So you can go through them later on, right? And this is how you keep on going through the questions. If you see there are certain symbols here, like, some comfortable currencies that you require for your examination. Obviously, your keyboard has got a dollar sign on it. And for performance management, I don't believe you need any other sign apart from dollar. So you were pretty decent there. But obviously, if there are other signs that you require, which like euro, pound, yen, or some other, I don't know what that is, right? So you can always insert them. Next to it is your highlight and your remove highlight. So whatever color you want to highlight, certainly, suppose I want to highlight this, okay? So if I highlight it with a yellow color or a green color, it will be highlighted. I can always remove the highlight coming back to this. I think I need to select it first and remove the highlights, right? You can always try through. There is a calculator here. Now, for the calculator, there are so many students who ask me that are we allowed calculator in the examination hall or not? The simple answer to that is your calculations would mostly be there for your section C questions and section A and B questions. Try to be accustomed with your standard and scientific calculator for your paper, because sometimes it is examiner's discretion to give you an access to your own physical calculator. I have seen most of the time the invigilators do allow, but still you should be always prepared for the worst. So if for some reason the invigilator, especially in the remote exams, if they don't allow you your own calculator, you should be okay to use these calculators also. And for your section C questions, you would see that, because you're using a spreadsheet, the formulas can be directly shown into it. Once I'm going to go to that part, once I'm going to go to the calculation part, I will definitely help you on how to use the calculator. So that shouldn't be a problem, okay? On the Excel sheet, how to use the, formulas to calculate things, I will show you there. But for your section A and B, that becomes a little tricky because you don't have an Excel sheet available. So, as I said, be accustomed with this kind of calculator, because you just need to be prepared for what may come to you. As I said, it is discretion of the invigilator to let you use it or not. So, it's always a gray line that you are into. So that is where your calculator is. There is a scratch pad also. Scratch pad basically is there to, put your notes on, and these are certain things which are not being given to your paper checkers. So this is your personal notes. If you don't have anything to hide from the paper checker, I normally don't recommend to use the scratch pad, and I recommend to use your response area only, because whatever pointers you make, they might be eligible for marks. And if for some reason you're not able to finish it, the question, and you have certain pointers written, then that gives the examiner edge to give you marks also. Right? So Scratchpad is available, but I don't recommend to use it. I normally ask my students to use the response area only to write all your answers, because you never know. Sometimes, you have written something which is important and the examiner can score you. And I'm sure all of you know the importance of 49 and 50, right? That one mark, wherever you get it from, is a pass mark, isn't it? So honestly, that is what I say. Scratchpad is there obviously for information that you don't want the examiner to see. But if you are pretty confident, and you must be by the time I finish my revision sessions, I think everything should be then on the response area only. Right. So this is how you go through the next, and next. I've not scrolled it, so again, maybe I've not scrolled here. Yeah, see, if you don't scroll, it does not let you go. Once you have gone through the last question, you remember you cannot exit the exam, you cannot end the exam if you've not even seen the last question. So you need to see the last question. Once you've done it, the place where I told you that you will be having your formula sheet, then shifts that to end exam, and you need to click on that. Before that, I want to quickly show you one of the questions. Right, so for example, this is a question and this is the response that you're going to put from your drag down button. And if you don't understand this, you can always flag a question. Okay, when you flag a question in your navigator, that question can be seen as a flagged question. Sometimes, it's very normal for you to not know a certain question. It's fine. If you don't know it, don't waste a lot of time on it. Come back to it later on, right? Uh, I'll show you this tips in my last class also. If you have, or if you face something like that, don't worry about it. Just flag it and come back to it when you have done everything that you know. Okay, and your navigator helps you to understand what all you have left. And always you can directly go to that question. If you know, for example, question 5 is something that I flagged, I'm going to come back to it later. Sometimes because there's a drag down option, I've written a wrong answer, or I've written an answer which I'm not comfortable with. Even those things I should flag. Okay, that you can do it. And as I said, you can always review everything that you have once you've finished it with one flagged question. Once you've done it, you can unflag it, And once you finish your paper, end your paper, right? Once a student told me that an exam of, I don't remember which paper, finished abruptly. It's like the exam ended abruptly, which is very unlikely for a CB paper because if you notice, it asks you two times. Do you want to end the paper? If you are, by mistaken clicking once, again it'll ask you. So, pay attention to all this. I know when you're giving a paper, any paper that you give, you would be little scared. Okay, that is normal, that happens. But just make sure that you are doing things mindfully. Just don't be everywhere on the place. Okay, when you're giving a paper, just be more structured, right? And I'm sure with the certain, little start baby steps that I've given you today, you will be able to manage it, right? But for managing also, you need to start. If you are going to be scared all the time and not start your revision, that is where you are going to get into trouble. Okay, so today what I have showed you, you have to start with that platform, right? Finally, what did we do? We finished, we just, yeah, we finished two things. We saw the CBE platform and we saw the ACCA study hub, right? Now I want to go to the variances, right? I'm just going to put my screen again on the break and open the variances. Right? Variances. Something that we have done in our management accounting paper. If you've gone through the management accounting paper, you have had a part of variances that you have learned there, or some information on variances that you have done that, right? But in your understanding, what is a variance? What are variances? So when we talk about variance is basically where company has got a budget, okay, sales budget or overheads budget or fixed overheads, variable overheads, labor time, anything. Company has got a certain budget that it has set aside for a particular expense that it needs to incur. Or company has set budget of income that it is going to bring. When the actual thing happens, actual income comes or actual expenses are out, if they are different from what the company has expected or budgeted, that is where there is an inception of variances. Variance is basically the difference between what the company expected or budgeted and what it actually incurred, right? Now, whenever we talk about variance, when we talk about the term variance, variance is a term that is used to show that there is a difference, right? Now, this difference can be of two types: adverse, favorable. When we talk about adverse difference or adverse variance, that is where the company has got a outflow of cash, right? For example, I budgeted to spend $1,000 on my labor expenses. I spent $1,200 on my labor expenses. That means that I have spent $200 extra. My variance is how much? $200. The money is going out. Cash flow is going out. Adverse variance. Adverse variance or favorable variance does not depend upon a negative or a positive sign, but it depends upon the outflow or inflow of cash. If the money is going out from the company, adverse. If the money is coming in the company, favorable. If there was a sales revenue that was expected to be of $1,000, my sales revenue became $1,200. Again, there is a difference of $200, right? But here the money is coming in. When the money is coming in, it is a favorable variance, right? So, first thing that you need to do about variances is, before even you know variances, you should know that it is a very important topic. 100% it is coming in your paper. You cannot skip it. In fact, I tell my students to not skip any topic. It's just not possible. For any subject, don't skip topic. It is not like any other course that you do, right? You can't skip a topic here. Variance happens to be the most important one. Right now, what I did is I explained you what variances are and how would you categorize a variance as adverse or favorable. The first variance that you have here is sales variance. Now, when we talk about the sales variance can be of two types: price and volume. Whenever there is a difference in sales, it can be a difference in the price, whatever you expected to sell it at and what you sold it at, and it can be of volume, what you expected to sell and what you actually sold. This is your variance, right? Or the different features or types of a sales variance. Sales price variance is, did each unit sell more for or less than the budgeted price? Price variance. Did the organization sell more or less units than was budgeted? Volume variance. How to calculate it? The price variance is actual quantity sold into actual price will give you the actual value. Actual quantity sold into standard price will give you the actual into standard value. If you notice here, the actual remains same. Let me just point that out to you just a second. If you notice here, your actual, this value, this value, and this value remain same. What is changing is your price and your standard. Right? So these are certain things which will keep on changing. The rest of the things remain same. The difference between actual price and actual quantity and actual price and actual quantity and standard price is giving you price variance. So what you want to do here is basically you're just going to take AQ into AP minus AQ into SP. The difference is your price variance, right? Now, once you understand this logic of actual into actual and actual into standard, your variance becomes smoother. The next one is, if you notice, that is for volume, right? So if you are looking at volume, what will change? Your volume will change. That's why if you see, the standard margin is something which remains constant, right? What is changing here? This values. See, I'll just show you what's wrong. See, when we talk about price variance, what will change? Price. When we talk about price variance, what will change? Your price will change. When we talk about volume variance, what will change? Your volume, right? I always tell students, don't mug your formulas for variances. It is going to get you in trouble. Always understand what kind of variance you're finding. Sales variance, okay? Sales variance means inflow. If increases, it is favorable because the money is coming in, right? Second, in sales variance, there are two variations, price and volume. If you are looking at price variance, what you need to see that your price is something that will change because that is what is your difference point, right? If you are looking at volume variance, what will change? Your quantity, right? You can write actual volume also, nothing wrong with that. Actual volume, quantity volume, budget volume, right? Your margin here is contribution per unit or profit per unit, depending upon what kind of costing you are using. If you are using marginal costing, then your margin, this term margin, is your contribution. If you are using absorption costing, then the margin is your profit per unit, right? Very clear with this? We're going to do sum on variances, so don't worry. I'm just trying to explain you the formulas right now. Then comes expenditure variance and your volume variance, right? Now, when we talk about the expenditure and your volume variances, this is just a second. This is something that is related to your capacity. Okay. I believe this slide has just been picked up before, but I'm just going to take it off and go to material. Slide has just shifted in the front. The next one is material variance, right? When we talk about material variance, material, just like sales, has got price and usage. When we talk about the price variance, price is something what you budgeted the raw material to be and what you actually bought for, right? So if you notice here, each unit of the material cost more or less than expected. When we talk about the usage, how much, this is what and this is how much. What you used or what price you used and how much you used. If you have used more raw material than expected, it was. If you have used less raw material than expected, favorable, right? So material also to price and usage. Here, the calculation is as such. What do we have here? Price. What will change? Price. Understood? AQ into AP minus AQ into SP, your adverse or favorable, right? What is your volume? What will change? Quantity. Logic. Only use logic. Even here, your margin means contribution if it is marginal costing and profit per unit if it is absorption costing. Now, under what circumstances will your material variance be favorable or adverse? Even this is something which is logical. Um, Mostly, I have seen this kind of questions coming rarely in your section C, but a proper reasoning for your variances can help you analyze the variance. After all, like ratio analysis, here also sometimes the analysis is asked, and that will help you to do this. Now, under what circumstances would your variance be favorable in terms of price? If the poor quality material is there, you get it cheaper, incorrect budgeting, or discount, right? These are certain reasons why your material price will be favorable. It can be adverse if you have expensive, high quality material, unexpected increase in price, or incorrect budgeting. So, under both circumstances, or in fact, under all circumstances, incorrect budgeting is something which can happen. When it comes to material usage, why have you overused or underused your material? High quality material, favorable because then you might have to use less, more efficiently used material, change in production specifications, or again, incorrect budgeting. Adverse, poorer quality control, less experienced staff using more material, change in product specification, and incorrect budgeting, right? So these are some reasons why your material price or material usage can be favorable or adverse. I'm telling you again, there are very less chances of asking or being asked a direct question on your discrepancies or variances, but you can use this as a tool for your analysis in your section C, or it can be used in your section A or B if it comes into a multi choice, right? The next one is labor variance. Labor variance means the number of the rate or the efficiency. Rate means how much you were supposed to pay the laborer, how much you did pay the laborer. Efficiency, how many hours they were supposed to use, how much they did use. Two different things, right? Here also, if you noticed, as I said, see, once you understand the key of what to figure out in your ratios, it becomes easier for you. Let's see, price, volume, standard, and actual. And if it is volume, standard hours for level of production into standard rate. And if you are doing it with actual, what happens is you are going to do AH into SR minus SH into SR. The difference between this is going to give you your volume variance. Right? So here, if you notice, the difference is that your AH into SR will be used to find your volume variance also. If you notice, standard and standard remains same. What is changing is actual and standard for your volume variance, right? Let's go to the next one. Reasons. What can be the reason for labor variance? Favorable and adverse. If it is labor rate, lowering skilled staff, it's staff, but it's written staff, my mistake. Cut in overtime or bonus and incorrect budgeting. That can be something which is favorable. Favorable means what you are expecting to pay, you have paid less than that. When it comes to adverse, it is high skilled staff, increase in overtime or bonus, incorrect budgeting, and unforeseen wage increase. Right? So these are some reasons for favorable and adverse labor rate variance. Labor efficiency, higher skilled staff, improved staff motivation, and incorrect budgeting. Lower skilled staff falls in fall in staff motivation, and incorrect budgeting can be a reason for adverse labor efficiency. Then comes our variable overhead variances. Just a second. Let's go to the next one. Variable overhead variance. Why do variable overhead variances occur? Right? Did the variable overhead cost more or less than ours in terms of expenditure? In terms of expenditure is funds, outflow or inflow of cash, right? So if you have overpaid, it is an adverse, underpaid is favorable. Efficiency, how much would that require and how much you have actually utilized, right? So if you talk about the variable overhead expenses or variances, actual hours into actual variable overhead rates or actual hours into standard variable overhead rates, right? This is your expenditure variance. If you notice here also, your expenditure variance will have your hours stagnant, actual. Because it is expenditure, it will be variating between your variable overhead rates. So actual variable overhead rates and standard variable overhead rates. For efficiency, we will use actual hours into standard variable overheads minus standard hours into standard variable overheads, right? As I said, whatever you are finding out, that thing, if it's expenditure, then that is actual and standard. If it's efficiency, your hours will be actual and standard, right? And the other part of the multiplication will remain stagnant. Causes for variable overhead variances. Favorable is unexpected savings in cost of service for variable overhead expenditure, more economic use of services and incorrect budgeting. Adverse, unexpected increase in the cost of service, less economic use of services and incorrect budgeting. Variable overhead efficiency, as for labor efficiency, the same that you use there for adverse and favorable. And obviously, incorrect budgeting is something that keeps on coming for any variance. So you can use it for any variances. Fixed overhead. Now, fixed overhead is something that is then divided into expenditure and volume, and the volume is further divided into capacity and efficiency. When we talk about overhead variance in terms of expenditure, it is very similar to that of your variables. Let's just see. Fixed is actual cost, which is actual hours into actual rate. If it is given separately, actual hours and actual rate, you need to calculate it, multiply them, and find out. If the actual cost is directly given, just use that. Okay. Budgeted hours into standard rates, and this gives you your expenditure variance. Your volume variance, as it's shown, it comprises of capacity variance and efficiency variance. So your volume variance requires a little more calculation. Budgeted hours into standard rate and actual hours into standard rate for capacity, right? The capacity means how much fixed overheads have been used, right? So that is something, if you see, is shifting. Efficiency is actual hours into standard rate and standard hours into standard rate. This standard hours and budgeted hours are two different things, right? Budgeted hours means how much the machine is expected to run. Standard is how much is the capacity of the machinery to run, right? I'll tell you how this works. For example, a machine has got a capacity to make 100 products in one day. That is its standard hours or standard capacity. Budgeted is something that the company expects. So if company expects to make 80 products in a day, that is the budget, something that can fluctuate by the company. Obviously cannot go over the standard, but something which can be equal to standard or less than standard, right? Depending upon the requirement of it. And when you deduct capacity and ex, efficiency, that is where you get your volume variance. Fixed overhead variances. Marginal costing system. With marginal costing system, no overheads are absorbed and the amount spent is simply written off to the statement of profit and loss account because it is based on the logic of contribution. So with marginal costing, the only fixed overhead variance is the difference between what budgeted to be spent and what it actually spent. But when we talk about absorption costing, we use an overhead absorption rate to absorb overheads. Variances will occur if this absorption rate is incorrect. So with absorption costing, we calculate the fixed overhead expenditure variance and the fixed overhead volume variance. For marginal, you don't need to do that, but for absorption, you will need to do this. The fixed overhead volume variance can be further split into capacity and efficiency, which I've already shown you. Fixed overhead volume variance is fixed overhead efficiency variance plus fixed overhead capacity variance. Favorables and adverse here, obviously, since you have four different features for fixed overhead variances, you will be seeing the favorables and adverse for all four of them. Fixed overhead expenditure is favorable where there is a decrease in price or there is a seasonal effect. Adverse where there is an increase in pressure or seasonal effect. Overhead volume, increase in production volume, increase in demand, change in productivity of laborers. Adverse is decrease in production, decrease in demand, and production loss through strikes. Fixed overhead capacity favorable if hours worked are higher than budgeted. Adverse if hours worked are lower than budgeted. And if we talk about efficiency, it is very similar to the labor efficiency is favorable and adverse reasons. How does the operating statement look under absorption costing? The purpose of calculating variances is to identify the different effects of each of cost or income on profit compared to the expected profit. These variances are summarized in the reconciliation statement or operating statement. The purpose of calculating variance is to identify the different effects of each item of cost, income on profit compared to expected profit. And these variances are summarized in the reconciliation or operating statement. Now, I have shown it here, but I have not seen it in a lot of questions pertaining to the operating statement because this is something that you have done in your MA paper, and chances of this coming per se would be less. It's just an example. Budgeted profit, sales volume plus or minus gives you actual profit on sales or flexed budget, and you get your selling price. Same if you're making a operating statement under marginal costing, it works on the logic of contribution, right? So a sales volume contribution variance is included instead of a sales volume profit variance. And the only fixed overhead variance is the expenditure variance. The reconciliation is from budgeted to actual contribution, and then fixed overheads are deducted to arrive at a profit. Example for that is also given: production, budgeted production into budgeted contribution per unit. You'll get your sales volume contribution plus or minus sales contribution on sales, and then you get your price variance. This is how the cost variance sheet looks under the marginal costing system. Obviously, all the favorables and adverse. The favorables are the ones that are bringing inflow of cash. Adverse are the ones that are bringing outflow of cash, increasing inflows and outflows. And the difference between them would show the actual profit. Labor idle time and material waste. Idle time occurs when employees are paid for time when they are not working, right? Now, for example, due to machine breakdown or low demand or stockouts or strikes, something like this, whatever like this is considered as idle time. Every company anticipates a bit of idle time, obviously, because you're working with humans. If humans are paid to work 8 hours a day, a particular amount of anticipation from the employer's company is expected for the idle time. But when that idle time exceeds the anticipation or threshold, that is where the company starts worrying, because effectively the money that is paid to the laborers is getting wasted. When we talk about the labor variance, labor rate is something that we have already done, right? And when we talk about efficiency, this is, did production take more or less than hours expected based on the hours paid, under which comes the idle time variance. So if you see the idle time variance, it is basically actual hours paid into actual rate, actual hours paid into standard rate, gives you a rate variance. Actual hours paid into standard rate and actual hours worked for actual production into standard rate gives you productivity efficiency. The difference between them is your idle time variance. The question here is how to control your idle time. Well, proper maintenance of tools and machineries, advanced production planning, timely procurement of stores, assurance of supply of power, advanced planning for machine utilization can be some tools, some prerequisites can help a company to not have a lot of idle time that is used by the laborers. As I said, see, company does have an anticipation of how much they can give as an idle time, right? That can be your lunch breaks, your mid snack breaks, or your loo breaks, or cigarette breaks, or etc. etc. Right? These things are something which is anticipated. But apart from that, if there is any flaw in the functioning of the company, that is where there is an increase in the idle time. So if the company wants to reduce that unanticipated idle time, that is why it needs to assure that these kind of controls are maintained. Material waste. Now, see, normally the material can be wasted through evaporation. If it is a chemical or a spirit, it will be evaporated, or scrapping or testing. Sometimes you test your material for, samples, etc. That is where a material is wasted. There is certain anticipation for material waste also, looking at the nature of the material that you are handling or dealing with. Waste would affect the material usage variance, like the purchasing of material is highly specialized function that can control waste by ordering the right quantity and quality of material at the most favorable price, ensuring the material arrives at the right time in the production process, take active measures against theft, deterioration, breakage, and additional storage cost. Factors to investigate in terms of variances is the size, favorable or adverse, cost, past pattern, budgets, and reliability of figures. See, variance, if it is favorable or if it is adverse, none of them on the extreme side is good. Okay, that just only shows that whatever the company is expecting, it is not coming near to the actuals of it, right? So, wherever there is a variance, it needs to be investigated. The next segment is the material mix or the mix variances, where I find most of the students getting confused with the steps of how to use or how to calculate the mixed variances, right? I'm going to take it in my tomorrow's revision class. And if I finish that in time, I'm also going to start with my first section C question. Okay. So I hope you got a lot of input from today, and I really hope that you start working on your ACCA Study Hub and use the techniques that I've told you today. We still have 2 weeks in our hand. It's not like the end of the world, and we can progress towards the number of passing marks, the number of score that you require for your performance management paper, right? I will see you tomorrow, same time. Please revise your performance management and start studying over it. All the best.